why does Moses say no? No less than 7 times at the beginning of the book of Exodus, Moses refuses God to go on the mission of redeeming the Jewish people. Moses either questions or outright refuses to answer God's plea that he go back to Egypt and take the Jews out of slavery. And the question is, of course, why does Moses do that? Why does he continually refuse God and continually refuse this important mission? And you might say, well, maybe he lacks courage. Maybe he's afraid of public speaking. There are people who are afraid of public speaking. And maybe that's Moshe. And ultimately, at the core, he does seem to have a problem with his eloquence and a problem with his ability to speak. But the truth is, if you look at the beginning of Moshe's life, he actually shows an enormous amount of courage. 3 times stepping up to the plate when he sees acts of violence and injustice being perpetrated. So much so that he stands up to an Egyptian taskmaster in order to save the life of a Jewish slave, and he actually endangered his own life by doing that. So Moshe doesn't lack for courage. So it can't be that he's lacking in courage and he's so afraid of public speaking that he's more afraid of it than putting his life on the line to save another person. So maybe it's because Moshe feels somewhat uncomfortable about his ability to speak. In fact, over and over again, at the end of his complaints to God, he tells God that he is a kvad peh ukvad lashon, that he has difficulty of speech, difficulty of the tongue. His lips are uncircumcised. He keeps telling God that he's incapable of expressing himself. But this too seems to be a bit of a red herring. It's actually Moshe who makes some of the most eloquent speeches that are found in the Tanakh. The entire book of Deuteronomy, the entire Sefer Devarim, are a series of remarkably eloquent speeches that Moshe delivers. So it seems that his constant harping on the fact that he's not eloquent would seem to run counter to what we see in our actual experience of Moshe's life. That over the 40 years he's able to speak quite eloquently. He's able to give wonderful speeches. And frankly, he doesn't need a lot of speaking ability in order to speak to Pharaoh and tell him in simple words, let my people go. I think actually Moshe continually refuses God because he underestimates himself. Moshe doesn't have the confidence to believe in himself. And in fact, as the Torah constantly tells us how humble Moshe is, and indeed the Torah tells us that he was anav mikol adam, he was humbler than any other human being. Moshe's problem is a problem that many humble human beings have. And that is, it's difficult to believe in yourself. And so when Moshe is asked initially, can you go and redeem the Jewish people? He says, Mi anochi. Who am I? I'm not worthy of this. I'm not good enough for this. Moshe is just too humble and too lacking in confidence because of that humility to be able to grab hold of his mission. And this is exactly why he constantly harps on the fact that he's not eloquent enough. You know, it's a fascinating thing. One of the commentaries, Rashbam, as well as Ibn Ezra, say that when Moshe says that he's kvad peh, that he's not, literally it means that he's heavy of lips. It means that he's inarticulate. The reason why he says this, according to Rashbam, is because his Egyptian is a little bit out of practice. And it's a remarkable excuse. He turns to God and says, look, you can't send me back to Pharaoh to redeem the Jews because my Egyptian isn't good. I mean, what sort of a complaint is that? He could go to Berlitz. He could spend a little bit of time learning his Egyptian or brushing up on his Egyptian. If it worked for Celine Dion, it should work for Moshe. But the point is that he's just lacking in confidence. He's lacking in that sense that he is deserving of being the redeemer of the Jewish people. And so he says, Mi anochi, who am I? And thankfully, God insists that Moshe go. And God tells Moshe, you are something. You are somebody. You can't say, Mi anochi, who am I? And when I think about this particular vignette, I worry. Because there are probably so many others, like Moshe, who have a lot to offer this world. And because they are humble, because they don't have the requisite confidence to say that I am deserving and I am worthy of being a redeemer. I am someone who can step up to the plate. We have lost their talents. Who knows how many other redeemers who haven't been tapped on the shoulder by God have held themselves back and haven't come forward. And the lesson that the Torah reading is teaching us is that you can never say, Mi anochi, who am I? You are somebody. You are deserving. And you should step up to the plate. Humility should never be an excuse for refusing to take on your responsibilities and for refusing to redeem people. And I'd like to remind everybody that on Monday nights, beginning on January 25th at 8 p.m., at the Tifereth Beth David Jerusalem Synagogue on 6519 Bailey Road, we are continuing with our series on Jewish prayer. We're going to be talking about various issues, including praying in Hebrew versus other languages and what the Jewish tradition thinks about that, about talking about actually the Exodus from Egypt and redemption as part of the prayer service, and of course, the Amidah, the central prayer in Judaism. So these are some of the topics that we'll be talking about, and we look forward to seeing you there.